I'm Peter Maravellis. Tonight on City Lights Live, we're celebrating the publication of the debut work from an amazing up-and-coming poet, amazing writer. We're celebrating Kemi Alabi's new work titled Against Heaven. It is published by the wonderful folks over at Graywolf Press. It was selected by Claudia Rankine as the winner of the 2021 Academy of American Poets First Book Award. Before we begin tonight, I want to offer a land acknowledgement. We are beaming to you from the unceded ancestral grounds and homelands of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples, also known as the San Francisco Bay Area, from where we continue to bring you readings, discussions, and forums, celebrating the authors we know and love. So tonight, Kemi Alabi is joined by an amazing cast of writers and poets appearing in support of Kemi's new book. Kemi Alabi's poems and essays have appeared in The Atlantic, in Poetry, in Boston Review, Catapult, Guernica, amongst other journals. Selected by Chen Chen as winner of the 2020 Beacon Street Poetry Prize. Kemi has received a Pushcart Prize, Best of the Net and Brittle Paper Award nominations, along with support from MacDowell Colony, the Civitella Ranieri, and Tin House, and so on and so forth. So they have served as Cultural Strategy Director of Forward Together, and help bring into being programs like Echoing Ida, a home for Black women and non-binary writers. Kemi Alabi makes their home in Chicago, Illinois. So they're going to be joined tonight by Derrick Austin. He's the author of the book Tenderness, published by BOA Editions, the winner of the 2021 Isabella Gardner Award, and the book Trouble the Water, also published by BOA, selected by Mary Zibis for the 2015 Poulin Jr. Prize. Derrick is a Cavey County Fellow and a recipient of fellowships from the Wisconsin Institute of Creative Writing and Stanford University. Makes his home in Oakland, California. Also joining Kemi tonight is Hieu Minh Nguyen, recipient of the 2017 NEA Fellowship for Poetry. Hieu is a Kundiman Fellow, a poetry editor for Muzzle Magazine, and an MFA candidate at the Warren Wilson College. Hieu's work has appeared on PBS NewsHour, Poetry Magazine, Gulf Coast, BuzzFeed, and numerous other journals. The collection, Poetry This Way to the Sugar, published by Right Bloody Publishing, was named a finalist for both the Lambda Literary Award and the MN Book Award. His second collection of poetry, Not Here, was released by Coffee House Press in 2018. And last but not least, it's great to have Sam Sachs back in the house. Sam is the author of the collection titled Madness, winner of the National Poetry Series, and Bury It, winner of the James Laughlin Award from the Academy of American Poets. They're two-time Bay Area Grand Slam champion, and with poems published in the New York Times, The Atlantic, Granta, as well as numerous other publications. So now we are thrilled to welcome Kemi Alabi, Derrick Austin, Hieu Minh Nguyen, and Sam Sachs. Hey, everybody, it's a great pleasure. Just awesome to have you all with us. Such an amazing all-star cast. Welcome to the virtual City Lights.
Thank you so much for having us.
Hey, I'm so excited to get to read with y'all.
Yay!
Yay.
Everything. So thrilled.
Yay! How did us? Wait. Should I just get started then?
Yeah, let's just get started. This
Okay,
is such an
let's just get
intimate
start-
little crowd.
Oh my
And I guess the only disclaimer is the theme is mess. I made a very specific request that we approach this reading with mess in mind, mess in an expansive way. So I'm really excited to hear what everybody brought. Let's get started.
Okay, I keep on. Oh, should I drop the link for the accessibility palette or packet?
If you got it, that'd be great.
Yeah. Okay. So we've been putting our poems in this document for folks to read along. Thank you, Kemi, for like initiating that. And yeah, I'll be the first reader. I'm so excited to be here and to celebrate Kemi and their book. I feel like I met Kemi at a national poetry slam. I feel like I think it was in North Carolina, but it could have been anywhere.
That's the only one I was at. So.
Okay. So that yeah. Ever since then, mind blown. I think we were infants trying to be grown. And yeah, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this. I'm gonna just read. The theme is mess. So I'm gonna start with a poem called Crisis. In the gallery of embarrassments, I get an erection when the doctor touches me. He tells me it's healthy. I tell him I'm having trouble focusing. The pills make me too aware of my heart. I keep running into this problem where I'm right about everything. Surprise parties, punchlines, the star signs of strangers. I think the problem with my one life is that I'm trying to live all at once too many, all of them indistinguishably sentimental from the ones I've already left. For so long, there was nothing missing, and then one day, without warning, something. I said I left for a job. I said I left for a boy. I said I left for something to do with my hands. In the elevator, my new neighbor flashes her lottery tickets, says, pray for me. I really want to do some good. I really want good to happen without leaving, because up until now, the point I was always trying to make was a point on a map. In the mail, a postcard that reads, if God took orders, we would all order the fish. In line for the bathroom, someone thinking I'm someone else hands me a baby. Every time I change my mind about dying, I have to convince my body. Almost daily, I think of how I wasted my last drink on a vodka cranberry, swearing it all off after pissing some stranger's bed. There's a dream in which I pin down my life and take its temperature. A quick summary of my body. For so long, I didn't want to be touched, and then I did. Perhaps it's too early to be finished with everything, Paul once told me, the context which at the time had nothing to do with him dying. Roca in his jawline says, if I shut up about beauty, I can become it. Before the laxatives, it was the pills that turned everything, even water, bitter. How did I learn these habits? Lemon water in the morning, licking the end of a thread to pass it through a needle. I would never say my mother hated me, just that she wanted me to hate myself enough to change. I think the topic of conversation in which I am last to join is about living, but who knows? Usually I'm wrong. Usually I show up just in time to be wrong. And then I have two more poems. And then the next reader will be Samuel, I believe. Is it Samuel or is it Derrick? It was Derrick, okay. Okay. So this poem is about my life before becoming a poet. Of all the things I've tried to do, I was probably worst at selling weed, robbed weekly, used too much of my own product, cut each bag with a dash of oregano. But then I have to consider that summer Maddie asked me to help him boost cars. His dad called me a liability, too paranoid to be lookout, too shaky to use the Slim Jim, didn't even know how to drive stick. Oh yeah, and let's not forget that time Mo almost lost an arm after I convinced him to pay me $20 to stitch his wound with fishing line instead of going to the hospital. Or that time I convinced Aaliyah to let me tattoo a cross on her ankle with a safety pin and a ballpoint. And then there's that time I swiped a Stetner from Carl's Maggie's locker and tried to set myself straight by becoming a violinist. But of course, the noise complaints. The neighbors banging the portraits off the walls, the boys talking shit, calling me prodigy, fancy chink. And I wonder if they're still having a good laugh. Like when they found out I wanted to be a poet, and so they glued roses and violets to the hood of my Kia. And so maybe I wanted for the first time to prove them wrong, prove I didn't belong there. And so maybe I made new friends, friends who wrote poems, who sat around talking about poems, who went to school to study poems and lived in off-campus apartments where I crashed on nights I got too fucked up on white boy drugs to drive back to the east side, where even without me, the rosin glow of junkers traced the block, where Mandy, 3 years sober, tucks her kids into bed, where Lee, first in his class, spray paints the fleet of stolen bikes gold, where Andrew stands in the kitchen, reading the Bible in the dim light from the microwave, where Nikki, years later, coming home after a double at Champs calls to wish me a happy birthday. And I am, of course, too busy to answer. Somewhere in a different time zone, at a swanky party celebrating a man I do not know, who just won an award for a book I have not read. And the woman who smells of citrus, who's been raving to me all night about how much she admires my work, excuses herself to use the bathroom, leaving in the seat beside me her open purse. I did not steal from her, but I thought about it. And this last poem is I wrote right before the pandemic. I went on a trip alone, and actually Sam and Derrick got to help me edit it when it was fresh. The poem is called From Paradise. The honeymooners tell me they're on their honeymoon. We're on our honeymoon. Wow, you're on your honeymoon? Yes, we're on our honeymoon. At the Oceanside Hotel, my room has a balcony overlooking the parking lot. I keep thinking of Alex's assignment. Be brave, go dance on a bar top. But in the shared cab, I pretend to not speak English to avoid conversation. Birds circle the ground around my table. What I first mistook for doves were actually white pigeons. On the far end of the beach, a group of children kick back and forth a used condom, screaming jellyfish. I keep an eye on my belonging as I back out into the ocean. Everyone here belongs to someone here. The children in the water, the man walking through the sand in his socks, the napping family of 5 sprawled out on their towels, all turning the same shade of pink. Turns out the spots I could not reach with sunblock are also the spots I cannot reach with aloe vera. The internet says that pigeons and doves are related. Imagine being a white pigeon, not a dove, but a cousin. Paradise wants me to know I'm in paradise. Welcome to paradise, tour of paradise, paradise lounge, paradise shuttle, paradise burgers. I order a bowl of raw fish. It comes garnished with a flower. I debate whether or not the flower is edible. I decide it must be. I debate whether or not I should eat the flower. I decide against it and tuck it behind my ear. When I was little, I'd swim in the flooded parking lots behind our apartment complex in love with the swirling colors on the surface. I consider breaking my sobriety over a pina colada. In the past 2 years, I've managed to quit all of my pleasures. I miss smoking most when I'm waiting for something to happen. One-star review of the ocean reads, looks nothing like the photos. Which would be more terrifying? A jellyfish or condom beside you in the water? During sunset, my phone notifies me that the storage is full, instructs me to delete photos if I insist on taking more. I delete 10, 2 of my dog, 2 of myself, 6 of the cross-section of an apple. Paradise Bakery, Paradise Cove, Paradise Liquors. Every night after the crowds have cleared, a man roams the beach with a metal detector. I ask him what he's looking for. Coins, jewelry, anything of value, but 9 times out of 10, it's just a bottle cap. Sometimes it's a pigeon and not a dove. A couple, a family, a group of friends stop me at the market, on the trail, at the cafe to ask if I could take their photo. I sneak my thumb into the corner of the frame. I scroll through my album and count the sunsets I've documented over the years. 28 seems low. Despite the sign for privacy, housekeeping enters my room and opens the blinds. My mother calls from Minnesota after her appointment, says the doctor will follow up in a week. I hold my phone to the ocean so she can hear it. She says she cannot hear it. Thank you so much. And now, Derrick.
That was amazing, Hieu. It's like, it's so good hearing poems. Again, like I'm just like sitting here feeling lush and luxurious. And it's like, yes, this is the thing that I love. And I'm so excited to hear Kemi read and Sam read to celebrate this beautiful book. I cannot wait to hear these poems aloud. We haven't yet crossed paths in this world, but I hope we do soon. So yeah, let me get into some poems. I'm gonna read from Tenderness, my new book, but I'm gonna read one poem from my first book because today also happens to be the day that my first book came out. So like a great day for first books. So yeah, the theme is mess. So I think that mess can be fun and good. So let's start with some fun and good mess. This first poem is called Opulence, and it has an epigraph from Paris is Burning. OPULENCE, opulence. You own everything. Everything is yours. Junior LaBeija, Paris is Burning. I've sashayed into your life from another time. Silk ascot and Oxfords as they take a turn around the garden. I'm dolled in lace and whalebone corset, crying in a mirrored hall. There's no sweeter sound than the opera of indulgence. A waltz, I've rolled with Mozart. Why watch countesses when the ballroom is up the block? Let's vogue and duck walk, our bodies barked into motion. House music slinks and shivers. My soul is velvet, sovereign, black. Princess Cece's bright salon, her plaited hair is damp with tears. Pissing from a gondola, the gardens of Bamarzo. Just off Ibiza, Amand de Brognac fills our cups. McQueen, Met Gala, the ambiance of coffee when you hate it. Tilda Swinton's cheekbones, the abs on Cristo della Minerva, legendary Leomi Mizrahi. Opulence is felt and heard. It's darling. Darling, come away with me. Darling, lick the sugar cube inside my mouth. Darling, dust the chandelier. Darling, read. Okay, I'm back. Darling, dust the chandelier. Darling, read your Henry James. Darling, gossip ruins lives. Darling, bend. Darling, leather. Darling, can you tell a life? Darling, do you have a self? You deserve it, darling. Darling, read your history. Darling, call me sir. So the first thing that I thought of when I heard mess was going to be the theme was I'm obviously going to read my Drake poems. So let's get into some Drake. This first one is called Hotline Bling Voicemail. Ever since I left the city, you got me fucked up. Can't even say Drake. Your name inked on the sweet meat of my thigh, crossed out, Drake. What happens to a meme deferred? Does he thirst trap on Instagram, sip Douce with Odell? I loved you before the beard and protein shakes. Morgan says we should all get free therapy. We could call it reparations. Can I dance inside a sad lamp? My feelings are obsidian, opaque. Two things don't abandon Black people, death and style, and death learned living from us. Derivative and late, it whines, it belly aches. Calling you was my first mistake, Aubrey. I masturbate, I dream you do not move, but grant for prayer's sake. I dream that you and I don't move. What gives the night its name? What bloody sway? Like a mandrake, I holler when I wake. So this next poem is called The Devil's Book, and the only thing you need to know about it, it references Tituba, who was the first person to be accused of being a witch during the Salem witch trials. The Devil's Book. There's no fun in witchery these days. Sure, I shudder cops with invisible needles, but magic's no calling. I simply ask to die on my own terms. Meanwhile, the earth's sick of our ego. It will outlast us. We'll burn ourselves out and no one will grieve, and good riddance, devil take us. Tituba refused the Devil's Book. Before the good people, she testified, I love the dust on my heels when I am luxurious alone, and they heard dancing with the devil. God gave me imagination and a just will, and they heard the flight of women above the steeple and meeting house. Tituba was no witch. She simply saw the nooses each citizen held. They ran themselves ragged. And then finally, before we turn it over to Sam, here's another Drake poem. And it references the Villa Diodati, which is this villa where Byron and the Shelleys got together one summer. and they had like a writing contest to see who would write the best ghost story. And Mary Shelley won with a little ditty called Frankenstein. So that's all you need to know. Thinking of romanticism, thinking of Drake. You rake, your Lord Byron burning off Hennessy and pound cake in Lake Geneva. Oh, but how your sun-bright body slakes my thirst. And though it's another record-breaking fall, weeks of extravagant sunlight wilt the gentians, the sunflowers, sick of it, droop and go bald. The geese fly south, volley after volley over Villa Diodati to preen and rest on the lake. They were fuckboys of a revolutionary age, not the geese, Byron and Shelley, the old regimes unable to get away with violence casually, revised and carried on business as usual in the summer of 1816, when there was no summer, only rain and chills. Thunder quaked the triplet windows in the villa where they wrote about their time and the dead. The dead waste no time telling the story of our age. Their refusal is not new, only louder now, like sunlight. Nationalism is not new, only louder now, like sunlight. Uninsured, self-medicating, distracting myself, I photoshopped you into wanderer above the sea of fog, above the Statue of Liberty and Michael Jordan's weeping dome. How is it where you are? Up there, in your feelings, in your body, your beautiful, breathing body. Thanks.
Wow. Oh my God. Those two readings were so good. It like brings to mind all of the sort of like quiet moments sitting in circles with people I care about, hearing poems whispered to you. So this is very magical. Grateful to get to read, grateful to get to celebrate this like monumental, deeply moving, brilliant book that I feel like I've been waiting for since I met you. And like I feel like I first met you, well, I don't know, like what, 2012, something, whenever, yeah, so like what, a decade, and then like a decade ago I was like, oh my God, these are the best poems I've heard. So you know, and then this book is like 10 years after that, so like what a gift to all of us, and thank you for making really brilliant work for a decade. Cool. So the theme is mess. I'm in my office. This is my office mates area. That's why it's clean. That's me. So this is like the illusion of having it together. The first poem I wanted to read, I mean, all the poems I'm gonna read are messy, like formally and conceptually. And this one I wrote today. I was on a plane yesterday back from New York, and I saw 6 birds in the airport. And so it's called 6 Sparrows at the Airport. 6 sparrows in the airport don't give one fuck about our metal detectors, nor being undressed by machine imaging, no respect for lines or the security of a line, and shit bird shit on the clear fiction of borders, the unclean fact of paperwork. A group of sparrows, and this is true, is called a host, meaning in the many of them live the divine. All 6, once assembled, become somehow the Christ, diving down to snatch fries from their red baskets, knocking over COVID-safe plastic divides, disrupting all this hygiene theater to throw scents from the temple. A group of sparrows, and this is also true, is known as a knot, a quarrel, a crew. Inside a sparrow are bones so thin you couldn't slit your wrists with them. Inside the bathroom, I hear a man one stall over weeping into his phone. Cool. That's what happened. This next poem is, I've been working on a book about pigs, and so this is from that. It's called Pig Bottom Looking for Now. I take pills and pass out in front of cameras, wake to messages finding me unconscious. An overdose on a live streaming jerk-off site would be an embarrassing way to go, no matter who you are. They're so angry I'm gone. Don't like to see a body emptied of its spirit, draws attention to their own body, Would rather watch pleasure stampede through a stranger on screen like water through a hotel faucet. Watchers leak behind screens. I close my eyes only to open them on this same country. Open them on a man braying like a dial tone, a group of girls laughing into coma, messages asking, are you okay? Are you dying? You dead? Stay just like that. Don't move. Don't make a sound. I close the computer. I go rinse my mouth. Okay, so that was about, you know, jerking overdose and on a jerk off site. True story. This next one is about an imaginary pig I had with an ex named Rainbow Queen Encyclopedia. It's called Rainbow Queen Encyclopedia. My ex wanted a pet pig badly, so we imagined it. Even gave the thing a name. Rubbed its invisible head before bed. They used to cheat on me. Tells me years later on a rooftop in Brooklyn, the city stretching out before us filled with brightly locked doors. They'd slip out while I slept to the theaters to leave their bodies and die a little inside strange men. The harm far enough away, I don't notice it clot in my hands as I write. A footnote forgotten ages ago. I don't know if I'm glad I know. The pig would have been beautiful. Then grown too large for our small home, would have needed more than us kids could offer, and then what needle would have ended us all, sobbing in the animal doctor's office, blaming each other for the holes in the wall. I'm glad we split when we did, like a book of hypothetical names, glad to have only suffered in the imaginable ways. Oh, Rainbow Queen Encyclopedia, in some other world, you are still a pig child dancing through chemical fields, beheading tulips, snout rooting out heaven. Better to have only existed for a time in the imagination, to never have to die. All right, that was about imaginary pig. What next? Oh, I know where I'm ending. Okay, I'm gonna do one poem I've never read before, also from the pig book. This is called Street Fair. Have y'all been to Folsom? I went to Folsom once with like a really bad cold and felt like very disconnected from the space, and so I made this poem. That's like a leather fair. Y'all know. Okay, Street Fair. At Folsom, I watch one band bind another in blue saran. The sub positioned in the shape of a shamed Christ. His whole exposed to the sun as crow's circle. His back bruised gray as my grandfather's Cadillac. The Dom orbits in a black latex mask. This ritual is old as the day is, as these two upon the dais rose in prayer. I participate in this spectacle by looking. It's clear they like to be seen, grappling in the performance of power and suffering. It's clear we like to be looking, congregants and Gentiles alike. I too have been bound and done the binding, to have stood upon stages and taken my licks. None of this is new, but it's easier to make the holy novel, to holy anything for the occasioning of a poem. Haven't yet figured out how to accept it's grown a bit boring, or that I have, that age may well have unwed me to depravity. A queer public flogging offering up nothing but a yawn, but a fist unfurling into nice smelling soaps. That I walk now through back rooms like the ghost of a ghost. So here in this crowd of heretics, I will to be fleshed back, to be disgusted into beauty. Anything fishnet, leather taped over eyes, clamps and plugs and electrocutions, nitrates and deep sounding metal. And at last turn my head to see the boy in his pig mask, kneeling in the bright gutter beside the row of urinals, begging to be made clean, as a man in a gold harness unzips, produces himself and empties onto his pig face, light raining down, and I well up along with the boy as I am become a well with the boy at its bottom. And when he is done, we rise together from the water and he presses his wet carapace against the dry, and both are in this one moment undying. My gaze wanders back to an old woman in her folding chair, dressed in black distressed denim, smiling with a riding crop she uses to conduct the crowd into and out of pleasure. And I found me, how I wish to be in this world, a part of and apart from at once, in a filthy lawn chair overlooking my own life. And then her eyes are upon me. Okay. And for my last one, I've been dating this person for 5 years. And we're like queer and non-binary and trying to find language for what to call each other, like is shifting, you know? And so this is a poem trying to like find the language to talk about long-term partnership like that. It's called My Whole. And it's, you know, like the two most common spellings of whole. You know, okay. What to call you, who I've slept beside through so many apocalypses, the kind that occur almost nightly in this stage of the collapsing West. Boyfriend was fine, even though we are neither boys nor men, but love how it makes us sudden infants in the eyes of any listener, how it brings us back to some childhood we never got to live. That was, at least at the time, unlivable. My sweetheart, my excised sheep's heart, my fled garden, my metal garter. After yet another man calls his wife his partner at the park, it's clearly time to find another name for you. He says it's my partner's birthday and we're going to Buca de Beppo, then Cancun. And wild how quick a name can become yet another vehicle through which to reproduce violence. Partner fit like a skin, and then that skin tightened and tore off. You who are neither my chain Italian restaurant nor my spring break vacation spot, not my owner or my only or my own, not my down payment or my dowry of sheep and crop, not lost, not loss. Apophasis is a way of naming what is by what is not, but what is. My boutonniere, my goofy queer, my salt, my silk, my silt, my slit, my top and my basement, my vanquished prostate, my battered apostate, my memory, my meteor, all these names for what exactly? To introduce what is to those who don't know. This is my whole. This is my whole. Take all of me. Thank y'all. And now, can we all like unmute and applaud both this fantastic poet, this fantastic person, and this brilliant, brilliant book into the world? So make some noise for Kemi. Yeah.
A surprise, the meeting's actually over. I just planned this so that I could sit back and listen to some amazing poems, and now we all get to just go to bed. Or no, I'm so grateful that these fantastic poets agreed to read with me, to celebrate against heaven. The best part of having this book come out has been being able to listen to some of my favorite poets read, forget that I have a book out, and just bask in the glory that is poems. So, but I do have a few poems that I'll read. Thank you all so much for being here. It's so intimate. It's so intimate. I love this cozy room. Shall we start with a little prayer, a prayer-ish, you know? This is prayer in child's pose. Fuck your rose quartz, your incense tune forked vibes. Every god is a blood sport crown and light is no exception. I'm sorry. Before this, I fell out of warrior pose and cried for blunts, bacon, caramel cake, deleting your number, quitting my job, buying a gun with one bullet. Do they sell less than classroom packs? Should I learn more before the race war? And I thought all this as my grieving thighs hit the floor. Why not darkness? Some blessed ones rise and some of us sit, witness. The priest hangs from robes sewn by the village. The poet, their twin, starves, naked and alone. Both fill books with all they know of prayer. Prayer. Tribe, stewards of my stuck shut soul. So long as we're black, blue, and alive, Big Holy twerks beneath a falling sky. Can't tell me darkness don't shine. A financial planner asks about my goals, or Golden Shovel with Cardi B's money, which is a great song that everyone should listen to. Never touch starved again. Forever a chub-bellied baby sexed big. Skin a heat-mapped catalog of hands, still wet, still grasping, still blood-fat. Behind every steam-slammed door, play plush beds as good as checks. Whole home stitched with only these rooms, only this near-rip big. Kitchen table, perfect island for the stranding, meals propped heaven large. Backyard, a honey-dripped grove named Eden, ripe land of no bills. Whatever drops first, spice adorned, sauce slicked back to front. Splayed open slow, tempting a spill, grateful to be devoured like I'll make my giggling groommates. Spit tethered hips churned tender, flip down, smeared open growls or whole wedding cakes or any drown we like. Just measure by the fistful how thick this slick can coat a sigh, add 10, and that'd be balm enough to dizzy trip my lonely and her cartwheels. Before I move on to the next poem, I forgot my usual preface. I actually love rose quartz. I love incense. I got incense going right now. I've got a ball of rose quartz right here. I just don't want to mess up the thing I got going with spirit. It's a good connection. And I was just playing. Poems are lies. Okay. This next one is called The Oldest Song. I love that the theme is mess. I needed it because my readings have been very serious. We were talking about abolition and state violence and climate catastrophe, which is still present in all these very messy poems, but I just needed some time to be like, and this is a collection about a lot of mess. So it covers the whole gamut, including some mess, and I'm grateful that y'all are rocking with me. This poem borrows a line from Yusuf Kamenyaka. The Oldest Song. Yusuf says, this morning makes us the oldest song in any God's throat. I dress this on a new love whose fingers dissolve time, who plumes me into a whole choir, reconstructs her jaw to fit the worship. But night dreams call me a liar, show only your face. My blood tides to the timbre of your voice and nothing else. Shut me up. Bad news on the way. Truth's fist halfway to my good eye. The bastard, drunk in drawers, stuttering, stay. Shut me up before I marry the fool again. Shut me up before we aisle run to you and your bride, Dwayne Wade pleading, baby, please. I blame Mercury for the retrograde. Blame industry for snow heaped onto still green leaves. Blame lead in the pipes and plastic piled oceans for this mile deep thirst. Shut me up before I tell you what my body found in that cavern, hell singed, borrowed and begged. Shut me up before the old no withers me down to the devil's court again. There are 5 title poems in my collection, and I haven't gotten to read this one yet. This is a double golden shovel with Sade and Belinda Carlisle. Y'all know that Sade song where she's like, if you were mine, I wouldn't want to go to heaven. How wild is that? To think that about somebody. And then Belinda Carlisle has that song, ooh, baby, do you know what that's worth? Ooh, heaven is a place on earth. So that language is in this poem. Against heaven. If giggle soaked, Henny leaned, young MA's ooh, sweat down to its naked ooh. You ripen apart till tender queer innards drip and dangle from fuckboy halves. Then, baby, were you to waft my way? Bright peach begging to cobbler. Let heat do what it do. Mine gut pent and wasted, sun born to sweep the orchard of you. If forgiveness, uncoupled from the cross at our jugular, was a song we could know. You and I against innocence in a red karaoke duet of fest mess. Then what were slights to scar the verses, cheats to bloody the bridge? The chorus, that's mine. There is a balm in Gilead. Sticky resin turned perfume, and we've mucked a grove's worth. I clown for you. Two-step to trap, shea buttered, lavender spliffed with you, and ooh, wouldn't we get swept out this Apollo? Ancestors booing our bits, thin heaven. Want a blue blaze snuffed in every realm. To misabolish and refuse your rule is to pawn my only heirloom, blood for Sandman's broom. I toggle fool to fool, forgo at mercy. December fists blooming to rainbow strobes, dance for a place to practice mesh and lace and rope and strap, our binding, our betting on heaven as our circling set to crash, ripping pavement up to rewild earth. More mess. These poems literally have mess as a word in them, so I had to read them. Polyamory defense number 324. I did not write 324 polyamory defense poems, but I probably could. Master of No Chill dates the superintendent of Chesapeake County, who's married to a forest turned endless blaze, who's fucking a planet 80% gilded ash. That part's a mess, but the body is more riddle than liar. The body is just information. Breath nowhere, breath vanished means I miss you, please touch me. Sometimes more, I mistouch. Sometimes more, you please me. More, please me. More, you and you and you are more than bomb shelters. Let's baba a village, warm our bodies back to real hearth homes. But where's the love poem for me, my partner, their partner, our lovers, and their rented doms? No hymns, no church, shoulders our altars, like everything we need. Impossible. Then imagined, then desired, then made by trembling hands. Gods bless the houses this love builds. Except for this one and this next poem. This was not a blessed house. This is goodbye letter to my lover's wife. To the one who begged for no more guests and carved a kitchen chair for me anyway. I took a seat at your overturned table, legs snapped and trembling. Licked his fingers while you stomped the dishes back to sand. Cried in closets for 3 days before you asked where I'd gone. He held me like he was carrying bills from the mailbox to the trash, but I love him like it'd make my mother sing again. Turn my father's voice to nothing but apologies, scratch that. But I sing my apologies. You, I could watch fall in a well and for a moment stand still, dream. But the neighbors know your shout, make curfews of it like streetlights. Our man tunes his heart to this pitch, then thinks he serenades me. I know that one, my mother's last song. Scratch that. They'll say I ran out shoeless, sands still in my hair. Some people can't love with the knives put away. Now I know there are worse lives than the lonely. I open my hands, praise, a planet. Everywhere I lie, my wedding bed. My last poem is The Wedding. A wedding, or what we unlearned from Descartes. And Descartes famously posed that the mind and the body were separate. And we have adopted that in our culture, in our sciences, in our ways of thinking in a lot of ways. So this is a wedding, or what we unlearned from Descartes, my last poem. Beloved, last night I doused us in good bourbon, struck a match between our teeth, slid the lit head lip to chest, throat zippered open and spilling. Our union demands a sacrifice. Take my masks, my wretched, immaculate children, sharp smiles bored with cavities, braids thick with hair slashed off lovers as they slept. The masks grew limbs and danced, so last night to the fire, plank pushed, cackling as they bubbled and split. Then dreamless dark. Then mercy, somehow morning reached for me. Sun found us swaddled in sweat-through sheets, gauze and salve while night wore off. Oh body, always healing despite me. Oh body, twin spy, tasked against my plot to rush the dying. Guardian of the next world's sweets. Yes, I'll lick this salt. Yes, I'll wait our turn because today we hold hands, mother each other, bathe in warm coconut oil. Our union, our long baptism. Oh body, all I forced you to know of thirst. Yes, body, you are owed a whole lake. Yes, body, I'll kiss our wrists, hold them to our ears, and spend our days losing to the waves. Thank you. Yay.
That was
now-
amazing.
Oh my God, so good.
And now we talk. Oh shit, it's late. My bad. I was like, and now we talk for 3 minutes. Oh, thanks y'all for just getting me carried away with poems. I am going to invite anyone who has questions to put them in this Zoom chat. You know, it's an intimate little room, whatever questions you have related to mess or not. But I have a question for y'all, maybe to start. I invited you to bring some mess. And so we can either start with my question, or if y'all have some, you can let me know. But I want to know how you think about mess in y'all's work and the work that you brought here tonight, and also in your process in poetry. Do you embrace mess? And thinking about Douglas Kearney's mess and, like, you know, tell me about the poems you brought tonight and the mess in them. Thank you everyone in the chat. Oh, I'm seeing the chat finally. Oh, y'all are so sweet. Talk about mess. What does it mean to you?
I mean, I guess I can start. Like, I'm a Virgo, so mess terrifies me. I don't know what to do with mess. So like, but I think right now, and I think this is sort of like my journey as a poet and probably as a person, is to learn how to embrace mess more, as I think like where I'm at, you know. I think you know, I guess the way that I'm thinking about mess these days is mess as possibility, mess as generative, mess as the space where I can surprise myself. You know, I feel like I guess in my head, mess and surprise are connected. And I think though that's what I'm really after in a poem. Like, I feel like if I haven't yet surprised myself in a poem I'm working on, then I'm not done with it. And like, I haven't like addressed like what the actual mess in the poem is, so to speak. So yeah, I think that's like how I'm thinking about mess these days. You know, I'm trying to be better at embracing it. You know, that's where I'm at anyway.
It's so good to know you're a Virgo. That's a lens I'm going to apply to your work now.
I'm a Gemini. Could that just be my answer? No, but sometimes I feel like without the mess, I am two-dimensional. I don't know. I think a lot about like when Mary Ruffo says like a poem begins in the mind, and since my mind is messy, it begins messy, and so maybe I like have to work from mess to somewhere else or stay in the mess. Yeah, like crawl out of it in a way, and try to make a gown out of it. Who knows?
Yeah.
Sam, speak.
I'm a double Scorpio, which I feel like has its own mess to it. And I was thinking that in like for the Yiddish, the term like shitster is cocklicker, which sounds like cocklicker. And so I feel like there's something deeply entwined about like stirring shit up and desire and obscenity in the body. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much it lives in the poems, you know, but I think like both like memory and pleasure and grief all feel really messy and entangled, you know, and I feel like those in my life show up in similar ways as they show up in the poem. And I'm always like interested in that particular disunity, right, where things don't line up. Like, I mean, like very basically like the queerness of it, you know? So like, I think like both in terms of like assembling the poem, but also in like how to construct my life and relationships, it feels like very central to me thinking about that. And I love the invitation. It felt like you were calling all of our names, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, knowing y'all's body of work, I figured you'd have the poems. Right? But also I've been thinking about mess when it comes to, you said disunity, Sam, and I've been thinking a lot about what it like a cultural resistance to mess, a literary resistance to mess, and these things being present as I was putting this collection together, and inviting more mess in places. You know, there's a poem where things are crossed out, things are in all different types of forms, and for the mess to be important to the actual content of the collection, to not be linear, to be in conflict. I feel like this collection's in conflict in a lot of different ways that I'm not attempting to resolve necessarily. To stay with the mess felt important. And so I've been really trying to see the radical possibility of being steeped in the mess. And that could be some queer poly mess, radical possibility, or just formally what that looks like on the page. That was my question. Are there any questions from our lovely audience, or do y'all have any questions for me or one another?
I don't see any questions, but there's a lot of love for you in the chat, Kemi. Holy wow, this collection reading so floored. Someone said, wow, fantastic language, so glad I caught this. Thank you. When you leave wanting to write, congrats, Kemi.
You did not just read the chat out loud to me.
Yeah, you need to hear it out loud.
Bask in it.
You just pop out without even looking at the chat. Thank you all for being here. If there are no more questions, I don't want to keep anybody further. We're already on Zoom in the evenings. So Peter, do you want to pop back in?
Sure. Boy, a whole lot of love in the room tonight. That was so very awesome. I mean, thank you all for gracing our virtual halls and just some incredibly powerful work. I mean, I think we're living kind of in this amazing moment where people are going to look back and go, man, what was going on at that time? I mean, in my 30 years at City Lights, I don't think I've seen this much amazing poetry. And you guys are really at just an example of the caliber of the kind of work that's coming through. So much respect. Kemi Alabi, Derrick Austin, Hieu, Sam. It's so amazing to have you all in one place, and just really a lot of respect. Very, very honored.